Good morning, fellow students, and welcome to my podcast about Australian poets and poetry and how they demonstrate a sense of passion and protest. The theme of my poems is war. Both these poems represent war in a condemning way. Anzac by John Brereton and I Was Only 19 by John Schumann are themed similarly in some ways. They also have their differences once deconstruction. Poetic devices as well as many different ones. For instance, both poets have written about war in a first-person point of view, despite not having been in war themselves. Schumann and Brereton use the experiences of friends and family that served in the two wars. I Was Only 19 is expressing the mateship and protest of the war experience of this time as men were conscripted. I Was Only 19 also expresses protest and wartime bravery, but also pain. For example, staggering, bloody. In I Was Only 19, readers observe two obvious allusions. The first is found in stanza 1 and is the names of 3 military bases used to train soldiers for what they experienced in Vietnam. These names are Puckapunyal, Canogra and Shoalwater. The second is in stanza 6. For example, the day that mankind kicked the moon, referring to man's landing on the moon in the early 60s. The same time as our involvement in the Vietnam conflict. Within both of the poems, the poets have used similar poetic devices as well as many different ones. For instance, both poets have written about war in a first-person point of view, despite not having been in war themselves. Schumann and Brereton used experiences of friends and family that served in the two wars. I Was Only 19 is expressing the mateship and protest of the war experience of this time as men were conscripted. For example, you wouldn't let your mates down until they had dusted you off. What the poet is referring to is the enduring pain the soldiers went through. Anzac also expresses protest and wartime bravery, but also pain. For example, staggering, bloody, sick and still strong with indomitable will. Both poems have used imagery to describe the horrors experienced by the soldiers. The attitude of Schumann in I Was Only 19 is typical of that era as men were conscripted to Vietnam opposed to in World War I. Brereton's attitude in Anzac would have been atypical in the early and pre-war days, whereas by the end of the Great War, this attitude would have been typical as this war was said to end all wars. I Was Only 19 has 9 stanzas and is written in chronological order, portraying a storyline containing the pre-war, war and post-war periods. From reading and analysing the two poems to find the similarities and differences in the portrayal of protest or passion, I found that the war experienced by the soldiers can still haunt them to present day. For example, in Why the Channel 7 Chopper Still Chills Me to the Feet. This is where Schumann helps identify what really happened to the soldiers in Vietnam because of the trauma that they are going through even after the war. I Was Only 19 and Anzac are narrated as if the poets were at war. In reality, they did not serve in the chosen wars. Brereton has created Anzac if it was narrated for one day only, as it also starts with soldiers protesting against the war and fades into a more regretful and depression tone. Brereton has expressed the feeling of pain throughout Anzac to have expressed the war experience, staggering, bloody, sick and still strong with indomitable will. Both poets refer to the enduring pain the soldiers experienced. In conclusion, both poets have portrayed the character in a harsh and fortunate period of time. The Australian experience today is completely different to the Australian experience back then. Today's expression of war is passion and bravery because of how scary war is and how easily you can die. In these two poems, the soldiers are basically sacrifices for their country. Personally, I wouldn't want to go to war because of the after effects and the mass bloodshed of friends and family. Thank you.